15 minutes past 11. Good morning, Malaysia. Otto here, coming to you live from Angkasa Puri, Kuala Lumpur, with the interview feature of the day. And of course, if you want to join the conversation, you can always do so via our Facebook Live at TRAXXfm Official. That's TRAXXfm OFFICIAL. So right now, we are joined by Associate Professor Nuradli Ridzwan Shah. He's the Faculty of Economics and Muamalat, Universiti Sains Islam Malaysia, on the line right now. Good morning, Professor.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Fine.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for.
How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you so much. It wasn't raining earlier this morning, so I was like, "Oh man, I wanted it to rain, just make it a little cooler." But anyway, with regards,
we have a very good weather here in Nilai.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, regards to people there in Nilai, thank you very much. But anyway, with regards to today's topic, which is tackling the rising cost of living. Now, I am made to understand that our inflation rate in November is 4% now. And what does that mean, actually? And how does it actually affect us?
Well, the figure 4% is actually, we are comparing the prices of goods that that has been calculated in the CPI, Consumer Price Index, comparing to the November last year, right? Comparing to November last year, so it has increased by 4%. So basically, it's actually we are looking at the prices, and then we looked at the increase is actually contributed from the prices of food and also drinks. But if we are looking at the overall, we call it the overall inflation from January until November, the increase in prices is about 3.4%. So this is actually saying that the price is actually has gone up by 3.4%, and normally our target inflation is approximately about 2%. In throughout the years. So we are now above the 2%, so about 1.2%, 1.4% above the normal rate. So this is quite something that has been worrying us, because if we look at the prices keep on increasing, up and up and up, then we will have some problem, in terms of our purchasing power. Yeah, so that's it.
With regards to the overnight policy rate, the OPR, set by the central bank, for those of you who are not familiar with it, well, Bank Negara Malaysia, or BNM, it actually dictates this overnight policy rate. Now, what it is, it's actually a rate, a borrow bank, a rate. It is a rate a borrower bank has to pay to a lending bank for the funds borrowed. So, what is the current present or economic trend in our country right now, in your opinion?
Well, OPR is, as you mentioned, also because it's actually the rate that the banks are lending between themselves, and this rate is actually like the cost of them. We'll call it getting the fund, and then when they want to lend to the people, so basically they have to have above the OPR. So in this case, so we noticed that the OPR has increased to 2.75%. So there will be another hike for about 25 basis points, which is 0.25%. So probably we will see that the OPR will be around 3% in this coming, December. So why do they actually increase or decrease the OPR, as we mentioned before in the previous session? It is because they want to reduce the inflation rate. Okay, that is from the monetarist view. Okay, what they can do is that if they increase the OPR, they increase the OPR, and then also this will reduce the purchasing power of the consumers, so they tend to spend lesser because they have to pay for the banking costs, such as their housing installment, car financing, and so on. So that's why the central bank increased the inflation rate, the OPR rate. And one more thing is that if we look at the decision that has been made by the Federal Reserve in the US, Basically, they also have you've been using this increase of interest rates. So if you can see that they have been increasing drastically to until 4%. Okay, so if we compare between these countries, right? So between Malaysia and also US, so we are actually taking 2.75, and US is getting 4%. So basically, many of investors are moving towards the country that are paying more interest. So and that's why we can see that our currency exchange, okay, has been weakening, okay, for the past 1 year, because the US dollar has been strengthening because of their monetary policy that they are doing right now. And this is also affecting other countries, okay, such as the British pound and also Japanese yen.
Now, there are some upsides as well for the increase of the OPR. Correct me if I'm wrong. Fixed deposit rates will increase loan interest, would also mean that the fixed deposit interest, saving interest, and so on will increase in tandem too. So that's one of the plus points of the increase in OPR.
Yes. But bear in mind that because the inflation rate is actually now at about 3.4%. which is higher than the rate that the fixed deposit are giving. So this is the thing that we want to look into in our, what I call it, personal or individual wealth management. So we don't want our assets, right, to be lower, the return of our assets to be lower than the inflation rate.
Now that we know, we'll probably know that the probability of a hike increase of the OPR next year is probable. Will the OPR increase, together with other factors that occurred in this year, have an impact on the economy recovery in next year?
Well, economic recovery it depends a lot of other factors. Okay, we have to look at the inflation rate. We have to look at the GDP. Okay, at the moment, right? So even though our inflation is a bit higher as compared to 2%, but the inflation rate is lower, okay, compared to other countries such as US. US is about 7.1%. Euro is about 10.1%. And then Indonesia, okay, our neighboring country, is about 5.1%. So basically, we are at actually a better condition in terms of inflation, okay, as compared to many other countries. However, there is another thing that we also have to look into, which is our economic growth, GDP. Now, our GDP previous quarter was quite tremendous. We have increased quite big. However, we need to see whether the increase next year would be not to be too slow, because some predicted about 4.3%. But if the GDP is increased, growth is slow, and our inflation is high, then we will have a problem, right? But as looking at the data from the World Bank data about the world economic data, we are quite okay in terms of that. However, we are looking at also at the performance of the Bursa Malaysia. It is not really well at the moment. So we have seen that there is a downtrend from 2018 until this year. So we are still waiting whether we can have upward momentum after this. But in terms of a long term in nature, we are looking from the previous years in the 20 or 30 years before, we are still uptrend in terms of our market direction.
Which is very good in terms of our economy. So basically what Bank Negara of Malaysia also has set for next year, according to them, the overall Malaysian economy expanded by 9.3% in the first 3 quarters this year. Headline inflation is likely to have peaked for the year at 4.5% during the second quarter of this year.
That's good. That's good. Right.
2.8%, while core inflation increased further to 3.7%, which is is 2.5%, which is actually very good because, like what you said, Professor, to have this inflation rate go just a bit up is just to make sure that our inflation rate goes a bit down and downtrend over there. Well, correct. Okay, so we are joined right now with Associate Professor Nuradli Ridzwan Shah. He's from the Faculty of Economics and Muamalat, Universiti Sains, Islam, Malaysia. We're talking about tackling the rising cost of living, and we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back with the good professor right here in Tracks.
Listen in to opinions from experts regarding issues relating to Malaysians and the citizens of the world when we go face-to-face with our guest. Every Thursday at 11:15 a.m. only on TRAXXfm.
Good morning, Malaysia. Otto here, coming to you live from Angkasa Puri, Kuala Lumpur. Also on our Facebook page at TRAXXfm Official. Today we're joined with Associate Professor Nuradli Ridzwan Shah from the Faculty of Economics and Muamalat, Universiti Sains, Islam, Malaysia. And we're talking about tackling the rising cost of living. Good morning, Professor.
Yeah, good morning.
Now, we already established what is OPR, and for those of you who just tuned in, OPR is the overnight policy rate set by the central bank, and what it is actually, it's a rate associated to borrower bank that has to pay the lending bank for funds borrowed, meaning to say the central bank gives out the rate for the banks to actually pay back the rate. So there you go. But anyway, in this case, we already also mentioned about why the increase in the OPR. It's because to tackle the inflation rate as well, and also making that certain GDPs are met as well. In order for our GDP to go up, certain things need to go down and as well as up. But anyway, what can we actually anticipate financially next year, Professor, based on the information now available?
Well, we know that we be facing what I call it maybe global recession. So in terms of financially, we have to be prepared, to face any problem of the world economy. So right now, probably the best thing is actually we need to be prepared. We have to save. For the rainy days, right? So basically, this is something that we need to look into, and that is from our side. Okay, but I would like to address this also to the government. Okay, basically, now we are tackling one aspect of the inflation from the demand side, which is looking at the monetary side. But also, we need to address also the issue of the supply side, which is looking at the readiness of the food that we are consuming every day. Now, we know that from the data of the Consumer Price Index, the increase comes from food and beverages. So basically, about 30% of the weightage of the CPI comes from food, right? Now, the problem is that we are, even though we are in the, good climate for production of agriculture product, and also fish and so on. However, we are still the net importer. Malaysia is a net importer in terms of food commodity, right? So there is an urge, that we need to be prepared for our country. Basically, food security is very, very important. What I'm trying to say is that we need to have a direction that we have to prepare food and which is readily available to the public, to the consumers, so that we can counter the inflation rate that are being imported from other countries, right? So. One example is that we have problem with chicken prices. We have problem with the egg prices. We have problem with many other things, which is actually that we need to use, which is a necessities for us. So this is actually a call to the government to look into this matter and to make sure that we can implement the food security for the public.
Mm-hmm. So, which is one of the reasons why food security is very important for us Malaysians. If we are also exporting some commodities to other countries, we need to ensure that it is enough for us in order to tackle the inflation rate, which is happening globally, just like what you said.
Some will call it, the public says that, for example, for eggs, right? Eggs, we don't have eggs in our country right now, because if we look at from the perspective of the egg manufacturer or egg producer, so it is reasonable for them to export when the ringgit is weak. So you are being paid in term, for example, in US dollar. So your return will be higher. So we can understand that why actually eggs are being exported to other countries. Even though our what call it local consumption is, which is we try to go to this supermarket and that supermarket. I mean, we can't find eggs anywhere in the market. But it is actually logically, right? So for this egg producer to actually export, right? Because they can have a higher return. Okay, because ringgit is weakening, right?
Yep.
So they will be paid in US dollar. So it is better to export. So because where ringgit is actually weakening, so it is actually the exporter market.
Exactly. So,
Right.
which is what you said. Logically, it is important for them to export because the ringgit is, the US dollar is much more higher, and the returns are much more better, so that they can survive. And
but this is the point that the government can jump in and then fulfill the gap. Okay, so since they are going for export, okay, that is good for them because export is also good for Malaysia. But to produce for the local consumption, maybe the government can have some initiative to produce eggs, for example, chicken, which is actually can be consumed by our locals. Consumers.
And so you're saying the government should provide a policy for eggs, for example, is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So saying that I'm suggesting that the government can actually, for example, come up with a strategy whereby they can actually set up a very big eggs producing company, right? Okay, so that whenever, for example, if these companies are exporting outside, we still have this, food security for the local consumers.
Now, taking that into consideration, now the quality should be in question as well. So hopefully that the government can provide a possible policy for companies here in Malaysia to provide local consumption, adequate food security for us as well. So yeah, that's very good. Because according to the Prime Minister, the Unity government will prioritize addressing the issue of rising cost of living to lessen the burden of the people. What's causing this is, of course, like you just mentioned, the ringgit has dropped, so exports are much more, like we said, logical for suppliers to actually export overseas, which is a need also, our commodities overseas. Now, I'd just like to inquire, the government is actively addressing the effects of inflation, but in order to reduce its inflation on a daily basis, the public must also get involved. So what are your recommendations would you provide regarding spending and saving?
Well, spending and saving, it doesn't matter whether we are in recession or whether the economy is good. Okay, we need to have a very good spending behavior and also a very good or consistent saving behavior. Right? So it doesn't matter whether we are the economy is not good, the economy is good, we still have to save. For example, if when the economy is good, we need to save. Right? And then when the economy is not really good, we also need to save, but at the same time, we use what we already saved for the consumption at that particular time. So, for example, during the COVID-19 last time, we have done a survey towards the how the consumption behavior between for the consumers. So we noticed that during the COVID-19, the consumption behavior, the spending behavior becoming better. Okay, becoming better, and then afterwards, during right now we already afflicted the COVID-19. Then we tend to be, spending more, as compared during the COVID-19. But if we can actually, maintain, our lifestyle in terms of how we save, how we spend, I think we can actually encounter any unforeseen future.
I think that's the key over there. Maintain. That's the key idea over here when it comes to spending and saving. Do you think that cash is king right now?
Well, cash doesn't provide you any return in terms of when it's idle, right? So then we have a high inflation. So cash you want to have cash lying around without any productivity curve, which is, I think it would be not really good at the moment. We need to find which is the investment that actually can provide, what I call it, a better return, or maybe a counter inflation rate.
It's like investing, like fixed deposit.
Fixed deposit is still lower than the inflation rate at the moment.
But it's still safe, right, currently?
Yeah, it's still safe, but we still cannot counter the inflation rate. For example, inflation rate is about 3.4%. If your fixed deposit is paying about 2%, then we still have a negative 1.4% for the inflation. So basically, we need to find something which is quite good at the moment that can actually provide what I call it inflation as what we call it safe haven, okay? As compared to the rising inflation at the moment.
True. Aside from saving and spending, investing is also very important right now. So finding the right investing platform is essential. So we're talking to Associate Professor Nuradli Ridzwan Shah. He's from the Faculty of Economics and Muamalat, Universiti Sains, Islam, Malaysia. We're talking about tackling the rising cost of living. Now we're going to take another short break, and we'll be right back with the good professor right here on TRAXXfm.
Listen in to opinions from experts regarding issues relating to Malaysians and the citizens of the world when we go face-to-face with our guest. Every Thursday at 11:15 a.m. only on TRAXXfm.
Once again, good morning, Malaysia. Otto here, coming to you live from Angkasa Puri, Kuala Lumpur, with the interview feature of the day. And with us right now, we have Associate Professor Nuradli Ridzwan Shah from the Faculty of Economics and Muamalat, Universiti Sains, Islam, Malaysia. We are also currently live on Facebook. Head over to TRAXXfm Official. That's TRAXXfm OFFICIAL. Now, I'd just like to say a quick hello to Patricia Lim Lee Ting for giving out the comments. Says, good morning, TRAXXfm DJ Otto Professor, and all Traxxers listening out there. Well, good morning to you as well. So if you feel like you want to share this Facebook Live, please do so. You want to comment, just give a comment. If you'd like to give it a thumbs up, well, please, thank you very much for that. But anyway, we are talking about tackling the rising cost of living. Now, we already established how important it is to actually have the OPR increase just a bit to help us battle the inflation rate. Also, the GDP seems to be in good standings with us as Malaysians as well. The only issue could be because the ringgit is currently going down and other countries are going up for certain reasons. So make sure that you, as a consumer, as a Malaysian citizen, save up and also spend wisely, particularly when it comes to this next year coming up. Anyway, to that end, on December 13th, 2022, Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim issued an order to all government ministries directing them to design and formulate appropriate measures to implement targeted subsidies. I think that's the situation right now, targeted subsidies. Now, Professor, where do you think should it be targeted?
Well, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, all right. So basically, when we talk about subsidies right now, at the moment we are having quite a big amount that we spend on subsidies. So, for example, we have subsidies on petroleum, subsidies on the cooking oil, even eggs also. Okay, every egg that we consume, 10 cents is being subsidized. So there is something that we are looking into, whether we have to subsidize everybody or we only have to subsidize the people who are really, really in need, okay, really in need. So when we talk about the questions, whether we have to subsidize all, or we have to subsidize only a certain people, as targeted people. Right, now, probably there's some people who like to agree on to subsidize all, and some will agree only on specific people, which are, for example, the B40 to be subsidized, okay, on certain, we call it subsidies such as petrol, we call it cooking oil, and so on. But we can actually say that, okay, if we want to subsidize all, then the government has to come up with quite a big sum of money, right, to do that, right? So in lieu of that, so probably the government will have to look into on how they can actually assist certain people who are really in need, so that the income gap, or what call it, the gap between the have and the have not, can be reduced. All right. So in this we call it strategy, that is being being planned and going to be implemented, is looking at how the government can subsidize certain people, for example the B40, so that they can actually live comfortably, and also can survive, in this coming years, in our economy. Well, to do that is quite difficult. It's quite challenging, right? So to subsidize only the specific target of people. That is very, very, really challenging at the moment, because right now, for example, if you go and want to, fuel up your car, basically you just and then pay, and then you'll be also be receiving the subsidy.
Yep.
But how do you want to differentiate between these are B40, these are the people who need the subsidy, and this is people quite well off already. You don't have to get subsidy, and that is something that the government need to look. How do actually this can be done, but without any spillage, right? Or maybe any manipulation by certain group of people.
Oh, that's the biggest issue over there when it comes to targeted subsidies. Well, that will definitely take a lot of research and a lot of time.
I don't think we need to do a lot of research at the moment. We don't have to do a lot of more research. What we can do is right now is actually we need to implement, right? Now, what we can do is that we have all this, because if we want to do this, we need to have database. We need to have database.
Oh, definitely.
We already have the the one last time, COVID-19. What's the apps that
apps?
For taking the jab, for COVID-19.
My Sejahtera?
My Sejahtera.
It's been so long since I've said that.
Long, and then we have really almost forgotten. But we have spent quite a lot of money, right?
Yes.
So we have the My Sejahtera, we have all the other database. What we need to do is that we need to combine all this database, and then we also have this new thing that we call artificial intelligence, right? Artificial intelligence. Now, we have the brains. We need to deploy all our brain to do this, right? So we don't need to do the research anymore, because many other countries are also doing this, right? So we need to use that, use the database, and then use the artificial intelligence, and then we can say, for example, if you want to fill up the car, then you know that this is actually this person can actually receive the subsidy.
Well, utilizing technology, it might be a bit far-fetched for now here in Malaysia, but yes, the idea is there, definitely AI, and also applying technology for a first step, like what you said. We already have data from My Sejahtera, but then again, we have to implement more, especially when it comes to the station, so there are a lot of moving parts for that matter as well. But like you said, data is already there, it's just a matter of implementing it. But since that we don't have enough time right now, I'm so sorry to take up your time. Once again, before anything else, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Well, we are facing uncertainties in the future. We are looking at 2023, probably the global recession. So we need to be prepared for this. We need to be prepared for this. So I would like to say that probably we need to look back to our budget. So we need to save quite some big amount of money, maybe 10% or maybe 20% for your emergency fund. So that's all.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. We are talking to Associate Professor Nuradli Ridzwan Shah from the Faculty of Economics and Muamalat, Universiti Sains Islam Malaysia. Once again, thank you very much, Professor. You have a good day ahead of you.
Yeah, you too.
All right, so there you have it, coming to you live from Angkasa Puri, Kuala Lumpur. Wowza, that's a lot of information for you to actually just swallow. But then again, it all boils down to you as a consumer, as Malaysians, and make sure that you do your very best to maintain what you have right now and invest properly and save up when you need to. All right, so the government is doing their very best when it comes to the inflation rate, like our good professor said. The increase of the OPR helps the inflation rate to go down. And for those companies who have very big companies, like for example, like we did just mention the egg manufacturers, the egg producers, try to do something to help out Malaysia as well and join together with the government, because we are definitely trying our very best to ensure that Malaysia stays on top and strives to go forward, no matter if the whole world becomes into whole recession. We are still stable and strong and great, so let us stay that way. In the meantime, we've got the news coming up at the top of the hour. I'll be back after, right here on TRAXXfm. Good morning, Malaysia.
Listen in to opinions from experts regarding issues relating to Malaysians and the citizens of the world when we go face to face with our guest. Every Thursday at 11:15 a.m. only on TRAXXfm.